If you've ever struggled with matching a concept inside of Blender or inside of Maya, I'm going to be showing you a couple of techniques that I use whenever I find something that's a little bit more complex than a natural photography. So today, I'm going to be showing you how to take this concept into Blender and get a very basic blocking with good proportions and good camera match so that you can start working on your project. At the end of this, I'm going to show you, or you're going to get this very cool little scene where everything is ready and all of the proportions are prepared so that we can start modeling and working on a project without having to worry about having the wrong camera. So let's go. Step one, you need to pick a concept and we need to analyze the concept properly. In this case, we're selecting this concept from Etienne Savoie, which is the one that our student suggested. And it's an amazing concept. It's really, really fun. I would love to do this as my personal project as well, but it's definitely going to take a little bit more time than I have right now. So this is an amazing project, really, really cool. I have a little bit of a suspicion that he might have used a little bit of 3D to do the blocking of the scene because the perspective is really good. And usually with buildings like this where perspective is a little bit exaggerated, it's not so easy to get it perfect. But this one, amazing. It's a great concept. So we download the concept, we go into Photoshop, and the first thing is I need to decide what is the part of the concept that I need to decide what is the part of the concept that I'm going to be using. Is it the whole concept? Is it only the main area, the center area? Do I just want to do like this little piece right here as a small little project? You need to decide what you want to do. In our case, we're going to be focusing on the house right here, which is of course the main element from our scene. And what I want you guys to do is I want you to draw some perspective lines to better understand where things are positioned. So if we were to go to one of the corners of this house, I can see a perspective line that's going, let's make this a little bit smaller, 5 pixels should be enough. I can see a corner that goes right around there. And we can map out, as you can see, the very basic perspective of how this house is like set up here on the element. This one goes up there, this one would go up there, this one would go up there, and then we can combine all of those red areas to close the perspective. If you've never done perspective drawing before, if you don't know what perspective is, let me know in the comments. I might be doing a video about that. It's a relatively basic thing where, depending on how we draw things, we give them the sense of 3D by using perspective. So in this case, this is the base of our house. We don't see the other side, but I want to imagine, based on the general proportions of this thing, that it's pretty much a similar element. So we would have like a mirror option or a mirror section right around here. I'm gonna draw a little circle for my mirror. Then with a different color, let's grab this sort of like blue color. I can see that at this point, this thing is gonna move forward and create the main area of the second floor. Now, the second floor looks a little bit weird here on the front because due to the perspective, it kind of like looks flat, even though there is a little bit more distance that you might imagine. How much distance there is? It's probably about this distance right here. So if we like project the shadow of the element, we're at least gonna have this sort of distance. So you can imagine this sort of like invisible element right here. And again, this is where you need to use a little bit of logic, because even if the artist is really good, he might sometimes make small mistakes about perspective. So I can see that these locks right here are actually pushing out a little bit more from the door. But if we draw the perspective lines, you're gonna see that it's not that much, or at least we don't see it as much. Now from this lens right here, we're gonna go to this element. Then from here, we go to the front. Again, all boxes. We need to think about boxes. I know that there is an empty box right here, but again, I just want to follow or find the main shapes of our element. Here, I would imagine that this goes all the way to this point. I know that the log is right there, but again, it doesn't match as much. So I'm gonna try to follow the concept, but there might be a couple of things that are not perfect right there. Cool. And now with another color, let's grab a green color. We're gonna draw, in this case, the ceiling. So this is the ceiling, and it goes in this direction. Over here, this one goes all the way up here. Down here, again, perspective, trying to find the perspective. It goes all the way across, and I would imagine it would go inside like that. And we can see we have a fourth space, a fourth little block here, which is this little house right here. So this one would go right around there. Again, we find the square, we find the box, which I can imagine that it goes right around there. And then from this box, we go up into this little hut right here. And as you can see, if we were to turn this off, you can see that we've managed to capture the essence, the base blocking of the whole structure. This is super important. And sometimes I spend 1, 2, even 3 hours studying every single concept and every single part of the element, because this is super important. Here's another thing that's going to be super important for this particular concept, the windmill. So the windmill is going to be right around there. It's a cylinder. It's going to go in perspective towards that area. So as you can see, it's going to intersect with the house at one point. And then we're going to have our windmill blades going in this direction right here. So I'm going to create like a little bit of a windmill blade right here, just to give me an idea. And again, if we turn off the concept, we should be able to see a very basic description of the whole thing. Finally, this is the last thing that I'm going to do here for the analysis, is the floor, the actual like island where this thing is floating in. So if we were to grab, what other color can we use? Let's use like a orange. We're going to project the floor of the house on all of the corners that we have. And that projection that we're getting, that's going to be our plane. Like if we project, again, all of these lines right here, that should be close to the plane that we want to have. And you can see this is a heavily stylized concept, but even as a heavily stylized concept, we should still be able to find a ground plane. So again, that's the sort of perspective we're seeing. And I can definitely tell that this is a camera that's being like placed up top. We're seeing this from the top. So we're like pretty close to the same third level as the house. And we're seeing it down towards this amazing valley. So this is the first step. I know it's a little bit technical, but it's very, very important that we do it properly. And now we go to the next one. Second step, we need to bring this into Blender. So I'm going to save this real quick, and I'm going to save this in two versions. The first one is going to be called a reference, and I'm just going to save over one that I had before. And then the next one is going to be called concept. And the reason why I want to save both of the elements is I want to have a version where we don't have the lines and another one where we do, so that we can see them and play with them if we need to inside of Blender. So now we're going to, oh, that was the student did. So now we're going to go inside the Blender. We're going to delete this cube. We don't need it for now. And we're going to go to the camera. The first thing we need to do is we need to import our image. So I'm going to press Shift A. I'm going to go image and import a reference image. And of course, we're going to be importing our reference right here. The first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that it doesn't matter if we move the camera or if we move along the camera, we're always going to have the image attached to this camera, which is going to be our render camera. So I'm going to shift and left click and drag this element into the camera. Now, if I go to camera view, the letter N, and I go to view and I set camera to view, if I move my camera, the image is always going to follow. And I'm going to create a plane. So I'm going to press Shift A, mesh, and I'm going to create a plane. As you can see, the image is intersecting with the plane. Can we change this? Yes, we can select image, go to the image properties right here and change this depth to back. So now it doesn't matter how many things we model, this image is always going to be on the back. And later on, we can like zoom in, zoom out. Actually, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to remove the camera to view. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more to get more space. And then I'm going to bring camera to view again. As you can see, that's going to give me a little bit more space to work with here inside of Blender. I'm going to press Z and go to wireframe mode. And the first thing I want to do is I want to map where this plane is going to be. Now, ideally, we would make this plane the size that the big island is going to be. Right now, by default, this plane, if I'm not mistaken, is set to 2 units. So it's 2 meters by 2 meters. So how big would this be? I'm not sure, but I mean, a door is usually like 1 meter across, so it's probably like a 10 by 10, let's say 12 by 12. So I'm going to change the scale of the floor to 12 by 12. This way, we're going to have a little bit more working area. And now, of course, we're going to zoom out. Yes, we're going to need to like move our clipping ends and our clips right here. So I'm going to give myself one more 0 over here. There we go. And let's bring this down to 0.01. Then we need one more. Now, of course, we need to change the clipping distance because if we try to go out, we're not going to see anything. So you need to select the camera, and on the camera options, we're going to change the clipping distance. We're going to give ourselves a little bit more clipping distance, and there we go. So now we're going to try to position, the camera so that we can match that like orange plane to the rest of the elements. So right now, if I match it to that corner right there, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's a good position for our plane. Now you might see that the length is not perfect, and this is because sometimes the focal length that the concept or that the image is done with might be different than the focal length that we have. If you see that the image is very distorted, you get like this very exaggerated like 3-point view like what we have here, you're probably gonna have to bring the focal length down to something like a 24. You're gonna see that things change quite a bit here. I'm gonna definitely like zoom in again. There we go. Remember, we're still on the shotgun. Later on, we can like manipulate this so that we can render exactly what we want. I just want to have a clear view right now. Let's go back to camera to view, and we're gonna move this around so we can get this aligned. As you can see, by having a 24mm distortion, it's gonna be a little bit easier to try to match that like a orange element. Now that we have this, I can scale this a little bit more to make sure that I have a good amount of plane. Later on, we're going to change this. Remember, if we go to perspective view, this plane is still perfectly flat against the ground. This is why the camera matching process is so important, because you don't want to be like rotating planes just so that they match the image. You want to make sure that you have a perfectly good 3D view right here, and the camera is the one that's doing all of the distortion. I'm going to press Shift A now. I'm going to create a cube, and we're going to start now with our third section, which is the blocking. We're going to do a very basic blocking. So again, if I create this cube, the first thing I need to do is I need to make sure that this cube is sitting on top of the floor. Let's go to solid, because we know that if this is the base of the house, it should be on top of the floor. So right around there. You can snap, you can do whatever, it's fine. In this case, we're just doing a quick blocking. So now that this cube is right there, I'm just going to press a G, and I want to move this cube so that it matches one of the corners that I drew with the red line. So in this case, I'm going to do G and Y. I'm going to push it forward right there, and then I'm going to do G and X, and I'm going to move this sideways, and there we go. As you can see, now that cube is right on the corner of the building, and we can use this cube to start building the base red area. So I'm going to right click here, I'm going to vertical split so that we can work on the perspective view over here, because it's going to be easier, but we're still going to have this one over here. We can even go to view, again, destroy that, or not destroy, but just like move that along so that we get a zoom in here, just bring it back. And over here, if we grab this one and we go to face mode, we can start grabbing some of the faces like this one right here. I'm going to do GX, and I know I need to push this right around there. And then I can grab this face right here, and I can do GX again. Oh, sorry, not that one. It's this other one right here. I'm going to do GY, and I'm going to push this all the way to the back. How far back? I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure if there's another, if this is like a T shape or something. So I'm going to push it. I'm going to leave it like a T shape, something like that. Then I'm going to add a line. Where's this line going to be? On the other corner, right there. And that means that I can go to this face now, and again, extrude this. Or sorry, not that one. I'm getting my faces confused. Extrude this one and push it to the front right around there. Now, we can grab all of these top faces on our building, and we can just G and C and push them. Is my camera like rotated sideways or something? Let me. Oh, yeah, this one was wrong. My bad. That's why I was getting so confused. Okay, so we grab all of these guys right here, a G and C, and we're gonna push them up until we get the proper height, which would be right around there. Here's what I see, that again, things are not lining up perfectly. I'm getting this very exaggerated view. So I'm gonna go back to my camera over here. And now that we have camera to view, I'm gonna rotate things just a little bit to make sure that the red area like matches a little bit better to what we have. So I believe that's gonna give us a slightly better look right there. I can still see a little bit of distortion, and I don't want to go to the camera and make the focal length even like stronger, because that could definitely like make things very weird. Like if we go all the way to like 16mm or something, it's gonna really like change things around. So I'm not gonna do that right now. I'm gonna keep this at 24mm. However, what I can do though is I can go back here and just keep building my blocking. So I know that all of these faces are gonna continue to be extruded up. So I'm gonna grab all of the faces right here, extrude up, and we're gonna get roughly around this area right here. Now from this front side, or actually from all of the elements, because there's a little bit of an overhang, I can see that we're gonna have a little bit of an overhang here. So I'm gonna go to my extrusions, and we're gonna extrude along normals. Let's do along normals, there we go. And we're gonna push this guys out. How much? Well, technically it will be something like this. However, you can see that things are not perfectly flat. So I'm going to grab this face, and I'm going to scale on Y0. And this face, scale Y0, there we go. And this face is going to be scale X0, there we go. Same thing for this one. So this face, I'm going to GX and just push it back a little bit. It's not that further up. That seems, and here again, here's where the logic kicks in, and you're like, hey, how much depth would I imagine that there's going to be on that door? If it's not that much depth, we just bring it closer in right there. This one does seem like a higher depth, so that one looks a little bit better. Then I'm gonna grab again all of these faces and all of these faces. Or actually, I was gonna grab the faces, but let's go to vertex instead. So I'm gonna grab all of the vertex right here. I'm gonna GNC, and again, just try to find the height, which will be a little bit like this. You can see that the second floor is a little bit taller than the first floor. So it's gonna be right around here. And here's where we see the ceilings, right? In this case, I'm just gonna do another cube. It's gonna be a lot easier to just do another cube. Bring this cube to the front. Grab this face. Scale on X to make this face a lot smaller. Oh, I hate when that happens. Let me go back. Let's go out. G mesh cube. There we go. G. And I'm just gonna go into component mode. Grab this one, this face, and we're gonna scale on X again to make this like the roof shape. And if we scale, we should be able to find again the middle point. We know that this thing is gonna be over here. So now it's just a matter of finding the proper height. So it should match pretty much with the original house, right around there. It's of course not as high, so I'm gonna scale this down. And we match where the ceiling would be. So right around there. And if we see a solid view, you can see that even though the perspective is looking a little bit weird, that's because we're not matching the perspective perfectly. I kind of want to go for a flatter perspective, to be honest. Let's try a 50mm again. Let's try camera to view. There we go. Oh. Uh-oh. What happened here? Oh, I got it out of the camera. There we go. So now that we have this, it's looking a little bit better. But again, here's the mistake that I see a lot of people make. They see the concept, they see that things are not matching, and their instinct is to rotate this thing around and make sure that it matches the concept. But as you can see now in the 3D view, it's not going to match anymore. So you want to use the concept as a guide. That's one of my best advices for any type of like 3D work. The concept is just a guide. So use that as a guide and just use your logic to fill in all of the other boxes. Now here, one of the things that we can do is we can definitely grab this edge right here and move this a little bit forward because it's a little bit more pointy. And you can see it starts matching a little bit better. We can even push it up a little bit if we want to give it a little bit more inclination. And you can see the shapes are matching. And again, as long as we're capturing the essence of the element, I think that's going to give us the proper result. Another thing that we're going to have to do here later is to just mirror this whole thing. So let's shift this guy, and then I'm going to rotate in Z to this other side, and we're gonna move this, and as you can see, that's gonna give us the other roof. It's just a matter of moving this up because this one's of course taller, and you can see how this other roof is gonna give us the nice result right there. Shift A, and we're gonna create a new cube. Let's bring it up, and this new cube is gonna be intersecting with this part right here, with this little like roof. So we're going to scale this, move it back, make sure that we fit, or that we're close to the cube proportions. You can see them right there. Move them up, probably scale them a little bit more. Again, we need to see where this thing is actually like ending. That seems like a good place. And in this particular case, I'm just going to grab this face, extrude this up, and then scale in X. There we go. And that gives us the third floor. It looks a little bit long compared to what we have right here. So I'm going to scale it down a little bit and maybe push it up. Like that. Again, don't worry too much. Let's go N and lock the camera to view. Don't worry too much. Here I'm trying to fix the perspective a little bit. You can zoom in a little bit more. As you can see, that view is giving me a little bit of a better perspective, but now certain things are not matching here, but a lot of other things are matching, so I'm probably going to stick with this one. Shift A again. Let's go for our final elements, and it's just going to be a cube right here. We're going to bring this one over to the side. It's going to be the chimney, so the chimney is going to be right around there. Scale on Z, G and Z, and you can see the chimney goes, like, here's where, again, things don't match perfectly. Like all of the things are matching nicely there. And now this one looks a little bit small, so I'm gonna exaggerate it a little bit more, because otherwise the chimney is gonna look really, really weird. And all of these changes, or all of this section that we're doing right now, all of this process is exactly necessary for this sort of things, because this is where you're gonna realize whether or not you're like getting closer or not to your main goal. Let's finally do the just the windmill. So the windmill, we know that's going to be here on the center of the element. Again, later on, we're going to snap everything. Or if we were to continue with this project, I would snap everything and just make sure that everything was rotating Y. But everything was nice and clean. So we're rotating Y. There we go. And we scale a little bit more. You can see that in this case, we're going to scale on X to push this out. It's a little bit high, so I'm going to G and Z. There we go, right around there. Again, seems a little bit high, but remember that this is the room, so it makes sense. And yeah, finally, I'm just going to add another cube. Get this close to this area right here. I'm going to scale this up and then scale in X. And then scale in Y to make this thin. That seems like a good size. Let's go to this side view. It's gonna be a little bit easier. Just rotate this around. There we go. Shift D. Shift D. Doesn't have to be exact right now. Again, we're just doing a very basic construction. Let's give this guys a little bit more space. There we go. And that's it. So with this, my friends, let's do a join areas. With this, my friends, we have a very nice blocking of how our scene is supposed to be. And this is how you can start working. And now that we have a blocking, now that we've analyzed the concept and we have this information, we can start working on our project. Is this a little bit tedious? Is this a little bit complex? Yes. Are there easy ways to do it? For this type of concept arts, not really. If you're doing an architectural visualization, there is another tool. Let me know in the comments if you want me to share that one, which allows us to draw perfectly nice like perspective lines. But a lot of the times when you're working with a concept like this, there's not going to be super clean lines, and you have to follow a process to get you to the next level. So that's it, my friends. If you like this video, make sure to follow, subscribe, and join us in our Discord channel. Also, quick reminder, if you're watching this and it's not October 13 yet, you can still participate in our first 3D contest, which is Weapons of Legend. You can check all of the information in the Discord and in the video here in YouTube. So thank you very much, my friends. I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.